I have a big financial catastrophe coming if I don't sort myself out. And it's time I faced up to it. And it's time I put a plan into place. I am really good at looking at my finances. I keep everything on spreadsheets. I know what I've got, I know what I haven't got, I know when there are bills coming up that need to be paid. I never go into debt. Pre-planning for financial problems ahead is essential if you want to stay out of debt. And you'd be an idiot to sit tight and just hope for the best if you know something is coming. But I'm in real danger of falling foul of that if I don't sort myself out. I have 3 financial issues which are going to cause me a lot of problems within the next 5 years, and I need to address them. I've been putting it off like you do and hoping things in my business will come good. But my income last year was the worst I've seen since I started working from home in 2018. We're in a cost of living crisis, and I can't just sit back and hope that things are going to change, because this could be with us for a while. So I need to address it and work out how I am going to deal with this. Already since 2021, I've seen a downturn in overall income. I am now running at a deficit of about £3,000 a year on income compared to outgoings, which for now isn't that terrifying, because I have breathing space cash-wise, because I'm really careful with my emergency funds. But I don't think this situation is going to improve if business doesn't pick up, and there's no particular reason that it's going to pick up this year. I can't decrease my outgoings. I'm already running at bare minimum, so the only thing I can do is to increase my income. I have several ideas for how I can do this. One of them is the quick option, which is the option that I don't want to have to do. But let's have a look at what I have. Okay, so my Etsy shop needs to earn more. I have several options to deal with that. I can either increase traffic to my Etsy shop. Instagram no longer works. I've been posting regularly, I've been scheduling posts, I've started doing reels. Nobody is listening. It's such an oversaturated place to try and advertise your business. Unless you already have a very strong following and a regular customer base, it's a difficult place to get yourself found. Facebook, is the same. I have a presence there of my business page, but again, it's not generating the traffic, and I don't enjoy it, and I think that probably reflects. So my next option is, can I use YouTube to increase the traffic to my Etsy shop? Now, this is something I was thinking about. I was thinking about either doing a behind the scenes YouTube channel or a product-based channel where I showcase what I make and link back to my Etsy shop so that people can see how things really look, how they perform, how they wear, that sort of thing. And I was thinking about doing this, and instead I've just gone ahead and done it. It turns out I had a business YouTube channel which I started in 2016 and forgot even existed. It had a few posts on there, and I hadn't really done anything on it, I think, since probably 2016. So I have rebooted that channel, I have updated it, I have launched a opening vlog to announce that it's back, and I'm going to start populating that channel with YouTube videos of the things that I make, talking about the things that I make, showing them, and bringing them to life on the camera. So I'm going to give that a go and see if that works. People who run successful businesses where they also have an Etsy arm of their business, so they're selling in multiple places, say that YouTube is a really underutilized way to gain traction and to showcase what you do to potential customers. So I'm going to give that a go. You need to trial these things for a while. I think they say 3 months if you're trying a new strategy on something like Instagram. So I will probably give it much longer than that because things are very slow at the moment anyway. And we'll see if that works. So that's that option. The other option is just to ditch Etsy and go elsewhere. For me, that would mean opening up my own internet site and starting a shop there. Now, I've done that in the past and it was an epic failure. But I had no experience and I still have no experience. I'm following a couple of YouTubers who also run Etsy channels, and one in particular is gravitating away from Etsy and trying to make YouTube the prime place to gain interest, and then directing it to their newly set up online shop and online their new website. So I'm going to watch and see what happens there. I don't really want to restart a website because it costs money and you have to drive your own traffic and do your own SEO. I am not great at those things, but I'm going to observe, and if nothing else, I will learn what's involved and what I missed the last time. But for now, I'm practicing the YouTube channel. We'll see if that helps. My other options for increasing my income are to increase my survey income, and I'm doing that, and this year already is looking like a good year for increasing that. Increasing my market research income. I've already started off quite well this year, and it's only been this year that I've really focused on that. That is a better way to make quick chunks of money within a relatively short space of time. I'm applying for loads of market research surveys. I'm on about 6 or 7 sites. You get turned down for loads of research in the same way that you get turned down for loads of surveys. And I think that is mostly because I don't have a strong spend habit. I don't go on holidays. I don't buy high-end stuff. And I think that's why I get phased out of a lot of these things. But that's the way it is. The other thing I can do is to increase the interest that I'm making on my savings. That is very much at the mercy of the market because interest rates will only go up as banks deem it fit to put up their interest rates on their savings accounts. I follow the best savings accounts and I get what I can without locking away my savings for too long and potentially putting myself at financial risk because I have a very unpredictable income. You never know when you might need to fall back on a chunk of money. Now, I've got my Credit Builder credit card and they've recently put my money up, to my balance up to 2,500, but every month I pay that off, so I still need to have access to money. That £3,000 deficit would be slightly less scary if it wasn't for one other thing, which is that I currently receive working tax credits, which were launched quite some time ago. I don't know how long. I haven't been on them forever. It was designed as a top-up benefit for low incomes and low-income businesses. So I do my taxes online every year, and that is linked to my working tax credits, and they will top it up based on the tax assessment that I've done, and they use that as their prediction for the year, and then I get a monthly income. It's not really an income, it's just helping me cover the basics. There's no profit involved in it at all. Now, working tax credits are a legacy benefit which has now been replaced by the diabolical universal credit, which is putting so many people into poverty now. Working tax credit still exists, but it's being phased out. So when people stopped claiming working tax credits, they couldn't go back to it. It was gone. When people moved over to universal credit because they were told they would probably be better off, regardless of whether or not they were, that ended that claim. If a recipient passed away, that's the end of that claim. And they are phasing out working tax credits for those people who are still using them, people like me. The cut-off date has been moved because of the pandemic, so it's now 2024. So that means that at some point, probably next year, I hope not this year, but certainly next year, I will lose that benefit, which means that if I don't resolve my £3,000 deficit now, I am going to be roughly £6,000 a year in deficit. And that is an impossible situation. That has to be resolved. I've got to replace that income with something else. So I've either got to get really good at selling online, increasing all my side hustles, or I'm just going to have to go back to work. That is, for me, is the last resort. And I know that you're thinking, for God's sakes, just grow up and go out and get a job like most normal people. But I worked in full-time work for 17 years. I never enjoyed it. It was very depressing. I hated working with all the toxic people. I don't know what jobs are out there now. I trained as a secretary, as a PA, thinking that there would always be PA jobs around. And to a certain extent, there probably are. But I know that a lot of the big companies, I used to work with big companies, big financial companies in banking, and a lot of them have got rid of all their secretaries. And I don't want to go back to that, to be honest with you. I don't want to have to commute. I've worked really hard over, so when did I stop working full time? 2009, which was when I wanted to retrain, and I went to university for 3 years, and then I started my business in 2012. So, and I've spent all that time since I left in 2009 working hard to ensure that I never have to go back to square one again. I don't want to have gone 11 years, 12 years, 13 years and have to go back to square one again. If I can find the right kind of part-time job or casual job, and I don't need a huge amount of money to top up the existing income, I don't need a full-time income, you know, £300, £400, £500 a week max will probably do it and still give me the time to run my business, to do my side hustles, to run the YouTube channels and all the other things that I'm hoping will channel into income, or at least channel into interest, which will generate more income for my business. So there are things that I need, as I say, I'm testing out the YouTube channel side of it to see if I can generate more interest in my business. And that's going to be my saviour. And that was the thing I was supposed to be doing, was running an Etsy business, or should I say, running a business that sells through Etsy. I don't represent Etsy. And that's the thing that's really fallen aside, and I think it doesn't help that, you know, the last few years with the pandemic and now with cost of living and the energy crisis, it's mentally draining, and I started to lose the will to make anything work. And that's why it's now got to this stage where I really have to get on with this now. This is now incredibly important. I mentioned that there were 3 things within this financial crisis that I'm now in. My third one is my car. My car is now 11 years old. And whilst it is fine at the moment, it is not a young car. At some point, it is going to need replacing. Now, when I bought my car back in 2012, I was just about to leave university. And I guess the market was better back then. I hadn't worked for 3 years. I'd been in uni. I walked into Peugeot, who were then doing the Just Add Fuel deal, which was, they would pretty much pay for everything. 0% interest, hire purchase over 3 years, and you could own a car. And I got that, I don't know how, because I've been out of work for so long. I think it was because I went in the second half of March, and I know that they're under a lot of pressure to meet their quotas before the number plates change. And the number plates change at the end of the tax year, so the beginning of April, and then again in September. And because I'd gone in so late, they were keen to boost their quota, so I think that's why they let me have it. So they had a car in the compound that hadn't been purchased, and it's the car I have now. And I walked out of there a week later, having paid a £350 deposit and had a 0% hire purchase plan for 3 years. It was fantastic, and it was a flexible term, so I could, if I had a chunk of money and I wanted to overpay to either bring the term down, or I could reduce my payments over the 3-year term, I could, and I incurred no penalties. And that was great, and I did that a few times and paid it off early. But I very much doubt that exists now. And maybe in 5 years, if my car conks out, it will exist, and maybe my credit situation will be different. But I think the chances of me getting a 0% HP on a brand new car is pretty much non-existent. They don't make the car that I drive anymore. My car was £10,000 off the forecourt. They don't make the 107s anymore. And the next car up, which is I think the 208 now, is £20,000. And I don't want it, but if I wanted to buy a new Peugeot, because I've had such a fantastic experience with Peugeot, that is what I would have to go for if that still existed whenever my car dies on me. So my other option is to buy a nearly new, and I have seen nearly new cars with 30, 40, 50,000 miles on them for under 7,000. But again, would I get the 0% HP? And again, would I even clear for that? I mean, it's taken me about 3 years just to get a credit card, and I only got that because I used credit score, and I was offered a credit builder credit card, which has been great. But if I can't get credit, and I've tried to get other credit cards and I fail every time, because I think it's probably my work history. You know, I'm not on PAYE, my income is inflexible, I don't have much of a credit history because I don't pay for things with buy now, pay later. And I rent. Renting doesn't help because it doesn't, unless your landlord signs up to the scheme, it doesn't count on your payments. So I don't have proof of a good payment history, which is a real pain in the backside. If you have a mortgage, that counts towards your credit, but renters don't get that, and I think that's a really, really, really bad thing. So I need to plan ahead for that, and the best way to plan ahead for that is to build up savings, or like a car pot of money that I put into a high interest savings account and lock away for when I need it, so that I can pay for a car outright, or a large amount and then get a small top up, hopefully on a 0%, to pay off what's left. But that's unpredictable, so I need to plan for the worst case situation, which is to put away, say, £10,000 to pay for a car. And it may be that in 5, 6, 7 years I'm still driving the car I have now, but you cannot predict where those things are going to go. So this year I need to increase my income by £6,000, and I need to put away a pot of money of approximately 10,000, let's say 5 years at the outside, but it really needs to be in place sooner because you never know what's going to happen. So that's quite a big money crisis when you have a very small income. My income last year was just over 9,000. My outgoings, and that's me almost at the limit. I do have some discretionary income which I could ditch. I could stop buying any presents for any family, any cards. It doesn't amount to a lot, but it wouldn't bring the funds into a line too much because I don't spend a lot on those anyway. So I have to find a lot of money very soon, and I should have been dealing with this before. I suppose when I lost my studio in 2018, which came with a nice part-time job, and then that literally went, within 1 month, the whole lot had gone. It was very, very quick, and there was no time to plan for that. But luckily, I was living somewhere where I had the spare room, and I just picked up the business and moved it back. But that was a massive income drop in a very quick space of time. And then I had to essentially build my Etsy business from scratch because I hadn't needed it. It was that I'd created the shop, but I hadn't been using it. I would occasionally put a few things up there, but I was making my money from photo shoots, from my part-time job, and I didn't need any more. I was doing well. So that went. So 2019 was about building up that online business and doing everything again from scratch. I literally had to go back to square one, and that was quite a shock. So that was a very low income that year. And then, of course, 2020, pandemic happened. I did really well. I did a lot of what they call pivoting. I raided my studio because I realised that, I'm not selling fashion, I'm not selling all the other bits, but everyone went mad on crafting. And I made good money that year, just raiding my studio, selling all my fabrics, all the zips and the buttons and all the bits and pieces that came with it. And that's how I stayed in business. And that was a good year. That, of course, as soon as everyone was going out again and things got back to normal in 2021, fell off the edge of a cliff completely. So I've kept that avenue of the business, and it still drip feeds some money, but it's not the mainstay of my income anymore. I've gone back to doing the clothing, but I also started to use the scraps left over from my dresses to make hand-braided coasters, and I started to rescue broken jewellery and other unwanted beads and bits and bobs and do upcycle jewellery. So those are the four arms of my business. I have the clothing, which is all rescued from landfill and destined for landfill fabrics. They're all one-offs. I have the jewellery arm, which is all upcycle, recycle. I have the braided coasters, which is designed to keep the scraps from my dresses out of landfill. And then I have the rescued haberdashery. So I will, if someone gives me haberdashery items that they found in their loft or their back cupboard, I don't want this, do something with it. And I will often sell it on to other crafters on Etsy, because a lot of things, like I don't use zips in my clothing. But lots of people use zips and replace zips and all sorts of things. So those are the four arms of that, and I want to keep that going. It was the premise of what I do, which is upcycle, recycle, make, do, amend, and a sustainable way of doing things. And I need to work on that. I have really let that go. Yes, I make stuff. Yes, I list it, but I don't promote it very well because Instagram fell through the floor. Facebook is rubbish. The WordPress blog wasn't generating leads, and I just gave up. I just absolutely gave up on it. So that's why I started this YouTube channel, to practice getting used to talking to the camera, to getting used to using a video editor. I'd never done that before, and that's going really well, and just building up my confidence, because I was hoping that it would have a knock-on effect for things like Instagram Reels, for maybe redoing the YouTube channel for my business. So that's where I'm at. I've now done that. So in terms of accountability, I have made inroads into that. But this is long term, and do I want to sit around waiting to see how long it takes the YouTube channel to build up? I'm focusing on the surveys, I'm focusing on the market research, but are these going to fill a £6,000 a year deficit? 3,000 this year, an extra 3,000 next year. I have a little bit of breathing space, but this makes me feel uncomfortable. Worst ways, just go back to work. I have looked at part-time work. I've tried to apply for numerous, almost like shelf-stacking jobs at the supermarkets, and we have a few supermarkets here. But good luck getting an interview. Everyone wants the jobs, and I have zero experience, so they're not going to pick me, even for a shelf stacking job overnight, and you can't even get those things as part-time. They want you to work like 5 nights a week through the night stacking shelves, which is going to just destroy your life. I had a partner once who worked the night shift, working for a big home DIY company. It was the only job he could get, and he was a highly skilled creative, and it changed him as a person because he was working nights, sleeping during the day, and he turned into a monster. It was horrible, and it was just awful, and I don't want to go down that route. Plus, I've generated this flexibility in my life because it suits not only the way I live, but the way I have to deal with other things, like my family living a very long way away. I only see them 4 times a year, but I go down there for 1 to 2 week chunks so that we get time. You know, my brother's kids are young and they're growing up really fast, and I'm missing all of that because I'm so far away. I can't move nearer, it's too expensive. It's as simple as that. I'm here. But if I can keep doing those chunks, that's fine, that works. If I start working full-time or regular part-time, all that goes. That's gone. I might end up doing, you know, coming down for weekends and driving 500-mile round trips just to grab 24 hours with them. It's not sustainable. So I need to be careful about that. So there's lots of things to think about. I've addressed a chunk of it in terms of income. I'm working on a few things, but I don't know it's going to be enough. I don't think it is going to be enough. So watch this space. Gosh, what's going to happen this year? I don't know. Everything's an unknown, not just for me, but just in general, the way the economy is. And I can blame the economy. Yeah, it's the economy's fault not making any money. A lot of it's my fault. A lot of it is my fault. I could have made inroads into this last year, but sometimes things come along at the right time and inspire you and galvanise you into action, and that tends to be how I work, which is why I've suddenly started doing all these things, because I've reached that snapping point where, right, that's it, cut-off point, has to be done now. And being inspired by other people on YouTube and seeing how they are making the same inroads because they've also reached those snapping points is really important and inspirational. And that's why I love YouTube, because it helps me to realise the problems that I have and that I'm dealing with the same problems, and that maybe that solution is the solution for me. So that's my confessional. And I know I'm not the only one dealing with this. There'll be lots of people all in similar crisis points thinking, okay, I'm alright at the moment, I'm just ticking over at the moment, but this problem is coming and I either don't know how to face it, or I'm scared to face it, or I'm just going to hope it goes away. That's the worst thing you can do. That is what will get you into financial problems. Sticking your head in the sand and hoping it goes away is never a good idea. I know that. We all know that. So onwards and upwards. Watch this space. If you have comments, please make them constructive. Don't just tell me I'm a lazy so-and-so and to get my backside out the door and get a full-time job. Please don't. I'm not a complete idiot. I have worked in full-time jobs for most of my working life. And I haven't ruled it out. So constructive comments, things that you've done, things that you were trying to do. If you're in the same situation, it would be lovely to hear what you're also doing or not doing, or that you just, like me, you're just reaching that point where you think, okay, I really need to sort this out now. So yeah, please stay in touch. Let's work through this together, because I think there are lots of us in this situation. So talk to you later.